start off with a really basic question, which is, when you were growing up, did you think that you would start a business?
Absolutely not. I did not. I got in the workforce at 14, got my first kind of job in the SEO industry, and I loved it. But I certainly did not think that I would be starting a business one day, let alone employing people. I'm still not quite sure how it got there.
But it's good.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been life-changing for me, as you know,
Yeah,
Linda.
yeah, yeah, that's great. And so, as I said before, you started in 2016.
Hmm.
What's happened since then? Because it was only 4 years ago. Actually, it was really only about 3.5 years ago. So what's happened since then?
Man, it's been insane. So I joined the Getting Down to Business program. Didn't have a lot going for me. Didn't have any business background or anything like that. Didn't have any staff, all those kind of things. Now we've got 26 people, I believe. 24 of them being, no, geez, we got 28. Wow. We got 25 in Australia and 3 in London. We just hired 2 people in London, and that is growing faster than we did when we even started in Australia. So it's been very exciting. Oh,
That's
yeah.
probably pretty modest of you. So tell us a little bit about SEO and the awards and clients, and if you're allowed to name them, all of
Yeah,
that. Tell us a bit about the business.
sure. So when I started the business, there's a lot of media out there about founding and all that kind of stuff, and some of it sensationalized, some of it real. When I started the business, I was couch surfing. I didn't have any money to my name, didn't come from some family wealth or anything like that. And I remember finding the Getting Down to Business program online. I was on some Facebook group or something, and it was talking about how you would apply and all this stuff. And I thought, well, I've just kind of started the business. I don't really have, I've maybe got 3, 4 clients at that point. It'd be great to actually understand how a business works because I got no idea. And so enrolled in the program, obviously enormously successful and awesome. And it gave me that pointer. So, we started hiring, obviously. So I run an SEO agency. Essentially, we help companies climb to the top of the organic ranking. So one of our clients is Officeworks. So if you search for desks or you've bought anything on the Officeworks website from Googling things, thank you very much. That looks good for us. But we make sure they come up at the top of Google, and that's worth about $30 million a month. So that's what we do. So yeah, along the way, we started hiring and growing. And I always came from the mindset of, well, I want to hire people that have gone through similar hardships and train them into SEO. And that's kind of what we did. We built this world-class team. We were named, we won the Australian Marketing and Innovation Award last year. So we got told we were shortlisted along KPMG and Deloitte and all these guys and massive companies. And then our name was there. And I was like, oh, wow, that is awesome that we shortlisted for this award. I can't believe it. And then we got told we won. We beat out Deloitte and KPMG and all these guys to win that Marketing Innovation Award, which is really exciting. Then we got named Agency of the Year. I mean, we just had so many awesome things happen. Moved over to London, all sorts of fun stuff.
I got onto a Qantas flight last year, and I put on Alan Kohler because I love listening to his short interviews with entrepreneurs. And he said, and our next guest is Harry Sanders. I'm like, what? Alan Kohler, that's amazing. Awesome. So
Thank
for
you.
me, forget all those achievements. It's the fact you got onto Qantas with Alan Kohler. That's awesome.
Yeah, love it.
So you were talking before about how you didn't really expect to run a business and then how you fell into it and it kind of kept rolling from there. What were some of the challenges that you had along the way?
Man, well, I think the biggest challenge for me was I was 17 when I made Studio Org. I'm only, I just turned 23 a few days ago. So I'm super young. In fact, I'm the youngest in my team by quite a large margin. But I think the biggest problem for me when starting a business was I had no idea what to do. I was good at SEO. I knew my stuff. I worked at a company, but I didn't know about invoicing, GST. What the hell is a GST? Why do I need to pay that? And then there's all sorts of things that come along with running a business, having staff, all these different things. And they're things that you don't really think about or ever think that you could do. Like if someone told me, back then that I'd be paying payroll tax and not only dealing with company trust registrations in Australia, I'm now doing, buy sell company entities in London. I was like, what are you talking about? Is that a thing? Is that a real word? So learning all that has been really, really important. And, having the direction of programs like Getting Down to Business has made that possible for me.
Thank you. And so in terms of the challenges, it is about age. What about things like startup capital? Did you need a lot of money in order to start? If you did, or if you didn't need any money, how did that work?
I was really lucky in my industry. I didn't need a lot of money. I just needed, a laptop, place to stay, that kind of thing. I actually remember, and this is going to sound silly, but I remember the first day of the Getting Down to Business program. We were all initiated, and then Frank gave us all $20 for lunch. And I remember just going, whoa, this is awesome. We can all go out and buy some lunch. So, I mean, I didn't need a lot of capital from that perspective. More so, I needed guidance. And as someone that had literally no money back then, that those kind of gestures made a world of difference.
Fantastic, thank you. And I've never heard that before, so it is funny how, all these years later, there's those sorts of things that you remember, which is just really important. So thank you for that. So over the years, again, 2016 through to now, what have been your milestones along the way? How do you know that you're achieving whatever it is in your mind that you're setting out to achieve?
Well, I think my first milestone was hiring my first staff member. I'll kind of summarize the story. I was working and I finally got my own place. I was making enough money to get my own house that I was renting. And then I met this guy at a networking group called Jacob. Some of you might know Jacob. He's now our general manager. And I met him and he said, "Oh man, it sucks I met you." And I'm like, "Wow, that's a bit rude." He said, "No, it's because I've got to go back to Tasmania next week. I owe $1,000 in rent and I just don't have any way of paying it back. So I have to go back to Tassie and live with my parents." So I did something stupid, loaned the guy $1,000 and said, "Well, why don't we work together on some SEO stuff?" And so that's actually how it really started taking off. We had a first employee and I felt responsible for someone. This isn't just Harry's kind of SEO show anymore. This is Studio Hawk. I had people that I was responsible for, and then it snowballed. Then we hired Anthony, who's now our general manager in London, then Lawrence, who's a team lead, and all these people. I mean, they're probably my favorite milestones, hiring each person in the company, because it's one more person that I feel like we've made a difference to. It's not just like a job to me. It's more like something we've invested in this person, and we're looking at seriously unleashing that potential and making something awesome out of them. Other milestones have been, just growing the business, the awards, obviously astronomical, the clients. So to name a few, we work with Mecca, New Balance, Good Guys, Officeworks, a reject shop. I really got to get better at practicing the spiel. I can't remember them all. If there's any big names I've missed out, sorry. There's we're really awesome to work with, all big brands and also the small brands we work with, which we're super thrilled about.
Thank you. And so everyone will now understand why I call a lot of our guest speakers today my superannuation policy. So that's great. I'm really glad to hear that it's going so well and that you've got the, I suppose, not just the breadth, but the detail. You've had to learn the detail in order to keep the vision, because you can't do one without the other.
Exactly.
So who have been really important people in your life over the last few years as well?
Well, honestly, and this is going to sound corny, but yourself and Frank have been the first people that really saw potential in me, inviting me into the program and sharing what I again, I don't want to sound stupid, but I really don't know where I'd be without something like the Getting Down to Business program. So I guess massive shout out to you as well, Ryan. I don't know where my life would be. But so people like that were just willing to give me a chance and listen to my idiotic ramblings and how do I get started on this business journey. They were really important, and as well as people like Graham. I think Graham might be in this call. He's still on our advisory board today. I met him through the Getting Down to Business program, a lot of CEO experience. He's the guy that says, "No, Harry, you can't have 10 direct reports. It doesn't work like that." Or, "Harry, it's great you want to buy that company, but the figures don't match up." I have no idea about mergers and acquisitions. I'm, 23-year-old guy with a company with a, 10 mil plus evaluation. It's great that it's working, but I need that guidance from people that have been there, done that, and have that experience to bring to the table. So, those kind of people have been instrumental, and then, there's dozens more along the way that I've met that have really helped me.
Thank you, thank you. And I know that there have been other people outside your organisation, or outside of this group that we know here today, but others along the way who, as you said, have given you advice on mergers and acquisitions. And so those people, have they been professionals? Have they been personal friends? Have they been, who are they? What kind of categories do they fall into?
A bit of both. Sometimes it's someone you just bump into at a networking event. It could be, like groups like Entrepreneurs Organization or Young Presidents Organization, if anyone's familiar with those. Really good groups to get involved in, connected with, and get further learnings. So all those kind of groups, I mean, you just find these amazing, amazing people. And I truly do believe you can learn a lot from anyone that you meet. So yeah, just bumping into those people, I'm just a sponge. I would just absorb what people tell me and then categorize it later. And that's what I found has been really instrumental.
Fantastic, thank you. So as you know, the whole purpose of today is to talk about Victoria's economic recovery during COVID and after COVID, and what we believe is a way of doing that. One of the 4 pillars of this, we talk about education, employment and training, but we're talking about this 4th pillar of entrepreneurship, what we call the missing E from employment, entrepreneurship. So what do you think that we should do? You'd live this every day. What should Victoria do to be able to set itself on a course of recovery?
Well, I think now more than ever, there's a culture of side hustles and entrepreneurial spirit in a lot of different people. And that hasn't been tapped into previously, but we've got the modern era of the internet and freelancing and all these things popping up that are becoming more and more commonplace. Programs and education initiatives that are run, I honestly want someone to calculate the ROI on something like that. They're relatively inexpensive to run versus some of the major events I see in other sectors. But I mean, if you look at the output of them, I mean, from me, not only am I, off government support, I've now got 28 staff that I'm directly employing as well as myself, not to think of the, 200 odd clients that we have that we're working with as well. I mean, the government probably made their money back from the tax bill that we get just off that alone. So to think that there's hundreds of other entrepreneurs in these programs and other programs out there, I mean, geez, the ROI and the investment must be, the return must be significant. And I really hope that's being measured somewhere. And then just doing more of these education pieces. Sometimes it's not just funding. Sometimes it is education. Sometimes if people realize, hey, you could do that side hustle on the side and you don't need $10 million to start it up. You could, do it in baby steps, and here's how you do invoicing, and here's how tax works. Make sure you set some of that aside so you don't get a massive tax bill at the end of the year. These kind of things aren't really explained. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs that are too scared to dip their toes in the water because they're just not sure where to learn.
Great, thank you. And then we're going to go over to Leah, who's working with us, to see that the questions are in the chat box for you. But I suppose my last question really is about the specific advice that you'd give to policymakers and politicians about the systems that they can use to help start and grow startups like yours. So you've talked about what we can do to come out of it. What very specifically, maybe the top 3 things that you think should be done tomorrow by policymakers?
I mean, if I was a head honcho, I would be making almost like a entrepreneurial elective in schools where people could learn about these different things. I think it starts from education. And if people are aware that this is a possibility, even if they don't start their business, as you said, Linda, they will become entrepreneurs and will grow other companies. It's an instrumental skill to have. I think other things that can be improved is getting young people involved with these initiatives. I mean, every time I see a board of ministerial policies and things going on in business, it's all, people that have got a lot of experience, which is great, but it's also good to have a young representative of that to show, hey, this is what's happening in technology. This is what's emerging. And a third one that I would talk about is just making it really easy for people to do these things. Having hubs and educational resources where people can get guidance rather than having to fumble through the ATO website. Because, I'm sure it's a great website with a lot of information, but it is not the central point or the central source I would send someone to if they needed just broad advice or guidance on how to start a company.
Perfect, Harry. Thank you very much for that. Thank
Thank you.
you. And so all of the policymakers in the room at the moment, I hope you were taking some notes on that, and there'll be lots more notes to take for the rest of the session as well. So what I'll do, Leah, I'll hand over to you now to start looking at some of the questions in the chat box.
Okay, thanks, Linda. Yes, we've got a question from Anne-Marie Mulder from Yarra Ranges. The question says, hi Harry, what has been the secret to the success and growth? What's your difference?
The secret to the success and growth. I like this one. I wish I could tell you one hidden secret that people don't want you to know or wealthy people don't want to tell you, but it really is hard work, dedication, and time. Again, 5 years doesn't sound like a lot of time, but it is a lot of time when you're slogging away each day at something. Or one of my favorite sayings is most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 5. And I think I'm living, breathing proof of that. So I think, you know, you've really just got to take baby steps towards your goal. Think about what you want to accomplish, what makes you passionate. Because if you use your passion as a central core, a central source, no matter what happens outside, as long as you're yearning and heading towards that passion, you won't feel lost. Whereas people, when they set money as their beacon of hope, money is scrambling, it's fleeting. Who knows where money is? And trying to use that as a guide is hopeless. And you always feel like you're not going the right way or you're going to sway the direction of the money. Whereas if you go back to that passion, you'll always head forward.
Great, thanks Harry. I've got another question in the chat from Anthony Gaddy. It says, what's the biggest challenge you faced and how did you get through it?
The biggest challenge I faced. Probably the biggest challenge I faced was just getting started, you know, getting my first clients and stuff. Obviously, you know, as a young kid, you'd rock up to networking events, people wouldn't take you seriously. I still think it's you know, funny sometimes if I'll go to a networking event and people want to chat to Jacob or Peter or some of our senior members of staff and will just brush me off as the young guy in the room. I don't mind that, but you know, back then when I was 17, trying to get those first few clients was really, really difficult. I think the start was probably the hardest part. Once I had those and once I was producing good results for those guys, the snowball just kind of rolled down the mountain, and I just made sure I had the right guidance and the right people along that road for me. But certainly mastering the courage and the resilience to come out of the situation I was in to start trying to find clients.
Yeah, certainly character building. Yeah. And next question in the chat we've got from Warwick Peel. And he has asked, how have you driven a performance culture to steer such rapid growth to expand into London and internationally?
Good question. I think the culture is really the heart of every company. It's the thing that separates one to another that doesn't show up in a P&L. And I think that the way of having good culture is to have win-wins. And I'm not talking win-wins financially. I'm talking, I always say in my team, I always say, and whenever people ask, how do you get your staff to stay with you, given that they get like, you know, 5 job offers a week in our field? And I say, I make sure I'm the best option, not just financially, but in their career growth, their trajectory. We do team events every week. You know, we just did a pottery class last week. And I make sure that we have this sense of togetherness. And if we have that strong community, have each other's backs, I'm not just financially compensating them, I'm actually compensating them as people. And that goes a long way when it comes to getting up and working every day.
Absolutely. I've got another question through from Roxy Cheng from Yarra Ranges. She asks, what triggers you to start your own business rather than joining a bigger company or move up to management level?
Good question. I worked at a SEO agency at 14 and I was working in a team. It was great. You know, I enjoyed my life. It was simple. You know, getting a bit of money on the side, helping with my family situation. When I was 16, I moved across to another agency, became a manager there. Sounds weird, but yes, I was there managing that company. But ultimately, what's made me want to start my own company is I didn't like the way they did things, and I didn't have control over it. There was no real emphasis on culture, and the real only emphasis on clients was make as much money as we can. And I just didn't, that just didn't sit quite right with me. And obviously, profit's going to be an important part of any business, but I think people should come first. And so I wanted to start a company that was not just average at SEO. I wanted to be the best. So that's how I started out. I said, I'm not going to settle for mediocre. I want to be the best in Australia. And one day I hope to be the best in the world at doing the SEO as an agency. So that's why I started my own.
And you're only inspiring yourself and others through doing it. Yeah. So we've got another question. I think there's a comma in the name, so I'm not sure if it's Deepa Tojan or Tojan Deepa, but the comment is, great story, Harry. Very excited to know you. Do you think your young age helped you to take this big leap forward to start a business? Would you have done the same now?
I like to still think I'm young at 23, but I mean, the young age, it did help. I don't know if it's age or responsibilities. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have kids. So that was good timing for me. But a lot of my buddies, some of my really, really successful buddies in business did have a mortgage and did have kids, but they had some money saved up so that they could still take this gamble. I mean, if I hadn't done what I had done then, I probably would have done it now. But again, I don't know what situation I'd be in now. But certainly with experience then, I did have a lot of experience in the SEO field. I had no experience in the business field. So if my business knowledge just got wiped back to day one and I still had my SEO knowledge, absolutely I'll do it again. I think if you want to learn how to run a business, you can learn how to run a business. But if you don't want to learn how to run a business and you just want to make money, business isn't the right one for you.
Great, thank you. That's it for the questions at the moment. Anybody have any last questions before we move on?
I'll just highlight a comment that Charles made. Charles is with us from Hull in the UK. So Charles wants to know if Harry can come to the Global Entrepreneurship Week to give a speech next year in November. So there you go, Harry.
Yeah, awesome.
We're going to England next year in November. Cool.
Oh, excellent. Book it in the London trip. There we go. I'll line it all up.
That's
yeah,
right.
Look, I'm always happy to contribute to things like entrepreneurial talks, all that kind of stuff. If people are interested in learning SEO, we've also got something called Hawk Academy coming out very soon, because I always get that question as well. I think that's hawkacademy.co. But yeah, very interested in those kind of engagements.
Great, thank you. So we'll finish up here. We've got a really big agenda for the afternoon, so we'll finish up here. But Harry, thank you for your time. You run an international company. You've been able to come in. Thank you so much.
Anything for you guys. Seriously, Linda, I always say it. Anything you guys need, just give me a call. I'll be there.
Thank you so much, Harry. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Claps from everybody. You can't see them all, but claps.
Thank you.
So Warwick said, thanks, Harry. Warwick said at the introduction that we have our graphic recordist called Zara, who is capturing the ideas from each of the speaker sessions today. So, yeah, here we go. This is the one from Harry. Didn't think I'd start a business. What are the challenges? Milestones, and 28 staff today. That's amazing, Harry. Still amazing.